Betrayal has a way of cutting deeper than any blade, especially when it comes from someone you once trusted more than yourself. For Emily, her best friend Sarah was that person. They had known each other since childhood, two inseparable girls who grew up sharing secrets, laughter, and dreams. Through school, heartbreaks, and even the awkward years of young adulthood, they stuck together like sisters. Emily believed there was nothing Sarah wouldn't do for her, and nothing she wouldn't sacrifice in return. But trust is fragile, and Emily would soon learn how devastating it feels when it's shattered by the person she cherished most. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly, the kind of betrayal that hides in small lies and stolen moments. Emily had been dating a man named Daniel for nearly 2 years. He wasn't perfect, but she thought he was hers, her future, her anchor. Sarah, always supportive, seemed to adore him too, constantly complimenting how lucky Emily was. It wasn't until one evening, when Emily received a message meant for Sarah but mistakenly sent to her, that the truth began to unravel. The words were unmistakable, dripping with intimacy. "Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you." Emily's stomach twisted. The sender was Daniel. At first, she couldn't breathe, couldn't comprehend that her best friend, the person she trusted with every part of her life, was capable of such treachery. She confronted Daniel, who, cornered, admitted everything. For months, he and Sarah had been secretly seeing each other, spinning lies while looking Emily in the eye. Sarah didn't deny it either. Instead, she tried to excuse herself with hollow words, "I didn't mean for it to happen," and "I didn't want to hurt you." But those words fell flat, like ashes scattered on the wind. The betrayal hollowed Emily. Nights turned into endless loops of tears and sleepless fury. She replayed every conversation, every smile, every moment where Sarah had pretended to be loyal, when all the while she had been weaving a knife into Emily's back. But Emily was not the kind of woman who stayed broken. Slowly, beneath the ache, something colder grew inside her, an unshakable determination to make them pay. Revenge was no longer an option. It was a necessity. Emily didn't lash out immediately. She was clever, patient, willing to let the fire burn until she could wield it. She pretended to move on, to forgive. To Sarah, she appeared distant but not hostile, as if she had accepted the betrayal as a sad twist of fate. But behind her calm eyes, Emily was calculating. She began collecting pieces of information, Sarah's secrets, Daniel's lies, things they thought no one would ever uncover. She befriended their circle of acquaintances, listening carefully, waiting. Slowly, she built a quiet arsenal of truths sharp enough to destroy them. The opportunity came months later, when Sarah threw a lavish party to celebrate her new promotion. Everyone Sarah cared about would be there, her colleagues, her family, and of course, Daniel, who now stood openly at her side as her lover. Emily arrived looking radiant, the picture of grace. No one suspected the storm she carried within her. When the night was at its peak, glasses clinking, laughter echoing, Emily made her move. She tapped her glass gently, drawing the attention of the crowd. "I just want to say a few words about my dear friend Sarah," she began, her voice warm, steady. Sarah smiled nervously, clearly unsure of what was coming. Emily went on, weaving a beautiful speech about friendship, loyalty, and trust. The room fell quiet, charmed by her sincerity. Then Emily's tone shifted ever so slightly, and she began to unravel Sarah's hidden truths, her manipulations at work, the lies she had told her parents, and finally, the affair she had begun with Daniel, while Emily still believed she had a future with him. Gasps filled the air. Sarah's face turned pale, her perfect evening crumbling in front of everyone who mattered to her. Daniel stood frozen, unable to defend himself, as Emily revealed screenshots, messages, and details too precise to deny. Every word struck like a whip, every revelation another crack in Sarah's carefully crafted image. By the time Emily finished, the room was silent, the admiration Sarah had once commanded replaced by disgust and whispers of betrayal. Emily didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply placed her glass down, smiled faintly, and walked away, leaving Sarah to drown in the wreckage of her own deceit. The humiliation was complete. Sarah lost her friends, her respect, and eventually her career, as whispers of dishonesty followed her everywhere. Daniel, too, discarded and disgraced, realized too late that he had chosen a path built on lies, only to watch it collapse. For Emily, the revenge wasn't about getting Daniel back or ruining Sarah's life for sport. It was about balance, restoring what had been stolen from her, proving that betrayal doesn't go unpunished. She moved forward, free from the chains of heartbreak, stronger than she had ever been. And though she never spoke to Sarah again, she knew one thing for certain. The woman who once betrayed her would never forget the night she was unmasked by the very friend she thought she had destroyed. But Sarah's downfall at that party was only the beginning. For Emily, revenge was not a single strike. It was a process, one that would etch itself into Sarah's every waking thought. After that night, Sarah tried desperately to rebuild. She called Emily, begged her to meet, but Emily never answered. She unfollowed her on every platform, blocked her number, and erased her name from her life, as though she never existed. But in truth, Emily was still watching, still waiting, her silence more terrifying than any argument. Sarah, who once thrived on control, began to unravel without it. She lost friends rapidly, some who believed Emily, others who simply didn't want to be associated with the scandal. At work, whispers of dishonesty spread like wildfire, amplified by the subtle evidence Emily had carefully leaked, emails forwarded anonymously, private conversations shared with just the right people. Promotions Sarah once thought guaranteed slipped from her fingers. The life she had built was cracking one piece at a time. Daniel, who had promised her a fresh start, became distant too. Without the glow of social approval, he saw Sarah differently, fragile, tainted, desperate. Their romance, once thrilling because of its secrecy, became a heavy chain. Arguments replaced passion, accusations replaced laughter. And just when Sarah thought she couldn't bear any more, Emily struck again. One evening, Sarah arrived home to find an envelope slid under her door. Inside was a single photograph, her and Daniel, caught in a moment of intimacy months ago when they had first betrayed Emily. Across the picture, in Emily's neat handwriting, were the words, "This is where it began. Never forget what you did." Sarah's hands shook as she stared at it. She knew Emily was watching, knew she could expose her at any moment again, but what unnerved her most was the silence that followed. Emily didn't reach out, didn't threaten, didn't explain. Just the photo. It was a reminder, a shadow that lingered in every corner of Sarah's mind. Weeks passed. Daniel left her, tired of the weight she carried, tired of her paranoia. Her career crumbled further. She was passed over for another promotion, this time because a concerned party had exposed her habit of lying to colleagues to get ahead. Everywhere she turned, Sarah saw Emily's hand, even if she couldn't prove it. The once vibrant, confident woman became hollow, haunted. She stopped going out, stopped smiling, stopped trusting anyone. Every message, every knock at the door, made her flinch. The betrayal she had once dismissed as a mistake became the defining curse of her life. Meanwhile, Emily lived quietly, her strength rebuilt. She never gloated, never needed to. Her revenge wasn't about loud destruction, it was about permanence. Sarah would spend the rest of her days looking over her shoulder, knowing that the person she had betrayed was out there, calm, composed, and infinitely more dangerous than she had ever imagined. And that was Emily's true victory, not just exposing her best friend's betrayal, but ensuring Sarah never escaped the memory of what she had done, or the consequences that followed. As months rolled on, Sarah's downfall only deepened. The once glittering life she flaunted so proudly had turned into an endless cycle of paranoia and regret. She had betrayed the one person who truly loved her without condition, and now that betrayal seemed to echo back at her in every shadow. At first, she tried to convince herself she could recover, that people would forget, that gossip would fade. But Emily's silence made forgetting impossible. Silence is a weapon sharper than words, and Emily wielded it perfectly. There were no threats, no confrontations, just subtle reminders, carefully timed, to ensure Sarah never knew peace. Another envelope arrived one morning. This time, it contained not a photo but a letter, typed and signed, though Sarah recognized the deliberate cruelty in its restraint. Your lies built your life. Now your life will collapse under them. That was all it said. No accusation. No proof. But the effect was devastating. Sarah's heart pounded as she read it over and over, her mind spinning. Who else had seen this? Was Emily planning something? Had she already told more people? Every email she sent, every phone call she answered, seemed suspicious now. She withdrew from her colleagues, avoided family gatherings, fearing Emily had poisoned their trust too. And the truth was she had. Emily, with her patient precision, had been planting seeds. A rumor here, a concerned tip there. Nothing outrageous, nothing easy to trace back. But enough. Enough to make Sarah's boss question her credibility. Enough to make her family suspect her loyalty. Enough to ensure Sarah never felt safe in any relationship again. Daniel, the man who had been the center of this entire betrayal, was gone now. After leaving Sarah, he had tried to reconcile with Emily, swearing he had been manipulated, swearing he wanted forgiveness. Emily met him once in a quiet cafe. She listened without anger, her face calm, her eyes unreadable. When he finished begging, she simply said, "I don't recycle garbage." Then she left, never looking back. Daniel disappeared from both their lives, but for Sarah, his absence was another wound, another reminder that she had traded gold for rust. The final blow came on a night much like the one that had begun it all. Sarah was invited to a networking event by one of the few colleagues who still tolerated her. Desperate to cling to some shred of her old life, she dressed carefully, forced a smile, and attended. For a few hours, she almost felt normal again, chatting, laughing stiffly, pretending she wasn't broken inside. Until she saw Emily. She hadn't expected it. Emily walked into the room with effortless grace, surrounded by new friends, her reputation shining brighter than ever. She was everything Sarah no longer was, respected, admired, whole. Their eyes met across the crowd, and Sarah froze. Emily didn't glare. She didn't scowl. She simply smiled, a calm, devastating smile that told Sarah one thing: I won. You lost. That single look shattered Sarah more than any public humiliation could. She realized in that moment that Emily didn't need to keep punishing her anymore, because the punishment was permanent. Sarah would forever be defined by her betrayal, forever haunted by the knowledge that she had destroyed the one bond in her life that was pure. Emily turned away and laughed with her new friends, never sparing Sarah another glance. That indifference, that quiet dismissal, was the sharpest cut of all. From that day forward, Sarah stopped trying to rebuild. The weight of what she had done and the brilliance of Emily's revenge had left her hollow. She existed, but she no longer lived. And Emily, though she never spoke of it, carried the satisfaction of knowing her best friend's betrayal had been avenged in a way that no one would ever forget.